Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live 10 questions with series, during which we sit down with entrepreneurs and business leaders to ask about their journeys and the lessons they've learned along the way to impart any advice for all of us in our journeys too. Now, today we have something so exciting. We are chatting with Andrew Yonke. He's the CEO of the Chicago Music Exchange to hear about the company's 30-year journey and how it's making sound waves in the music gear industry with a rock star customer experience. Okay, I promise I'm not going to continue to use music puns throughout this event. I'm done. That's over. Don't worry. Anyway, if you have questions throughout today's event, you can ask them in the comments, or if you just want to shout out, tell us where you're tuning in from. Use the comments and we'll give you a shout out right back. Now, please join me in a very warm welcome for Andrew Yonke. Wow. Andrew, this is a first for us. This is a first for us. We've never had a musical intro like that.
Well, I will use no musical puns either during this. So
I deeply apologize. I couldn't help myself.
That's right. I'll play a chord occasionally just to answer some of the questions. So
perfect. If you could sing some of your answers too, I think that'd be super.
No. I'm like Jimmy Page. I'll play the guitar. I won't say a word while I'm doing it. So
okay, that's fine. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I gave our listeners a brief introduction to the Chicago Music Exchange, but if you wouldn't mind, can you give it to us in your own words? What is CME?
The Chicago Music Exchange is hands down the best music store on the planet, but it's the largest single location music store that exists. Wow. We're a multi-channel business. We're in just about every marketplace where you could acquire a musical instrument. We have international partnerships with other stores to bring exclusive models around. And as soon as they release some of the pandemic closures, we'll be the #1 spot for every band coming through Chicago to come and hang out and play.
Awesome. I am so looking forward to diving into your story, the journey of CME. So one more music pun, if you're okay with it. How about we rock? Are you ready?
I mean, I'll let it go, but yeah, I don't normally say that in meetings. You're not going to get on.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Okay, you came on as CEO to the Chicago Music Exchange in 2015, but I think it's super important to chat about CME's beginnings. What was the original business strategy for CME when it was founded in 1990, and what void did it fill in the music industry? How has that purpose evolved over time?
It's a pretty crazy story that we could use this the entire time of me answering, but the abridged version is that 31 years ago, a gentleman opened a small music store on Clark Street in Chicago. And eventually he expanded to our current location. He wanted to do something that visually was impactful, but it was still old school in its presentation. It was a straight up guitars hanging on the wall type place. My partner, David Colt, was coming from a different industry. He was looking to start a music marketplace. Long story short, they told him he needed to acquire a store. And he found the Chicago Music Exchange, realized the opportunity that it had, and he bought it 10-ish years ago. And I was at dinner, and a friend of mine walks in and says, "Hey, some stockbroker bought the Chicago Music Exchange." And I said, "That's impossible. You can't do that." And I went there, and standing at the front counter was David Colt with his bowler cap and his denim on denim. And we just immediately hit it off. And I was in a separate business. I owned a real estate firm. I'd always played and been in bands and stuff when I was younger. And we got to talking and started doing one thing or another. And we became partners in Vintage Instruments. I didn't have anything to do with the store. I was an investor in another musical-based business that we have. And I got more and more involved at CME by the day, until one day in 2014, we both were talking. One of our other businesses had become really successful. He needed to concentrate on that. And he's like, "Will you help me find a CEO?" And we both kind of at the same time were like, I mean, we're pretty good working together. Maybe we could take a shot at it. And so we did. And we knew the first month of 2015 what we had.
Wow. So, I mean, music aside, talking on the business side of things, what drew you to the company? Where was there greatness? And on the contrary, where did you see room for growth?
So one of the biggest stats that we're aware of is the fact that currently in 3 weeks, we do as much business as what Chicago Music Exchange did in an entire year when David first acquired the store. So it was a totally different mindset and business model. David's was a lot of growth. It was get the name out there. It was wherever you want to be at, we're going to be. And I was aligned in that. Like, I don't want to tell people where they can and can't buy our product.
Right.
So when I first took over, the very first thing that I saw for us, especially in the website.com whole era, was shipping. And the very first thing I did, I left the store, obviously introduced myself to everybody as new owner, but I went straight to the warehouse, and I spent the first month and a half at the warehouse with all of our guys, resetting the way we ship, how we ship. And I really wanted to instill the mindset that you are the one who's going to make the first impression for us to all of these customers, because when they get that box, if the item's chucked in there without a process or good case candy or a letter or a statement from us, it's a fail. So we really nailed it right off the bat to make sure that everybody, that package that they get says something for us, for the people that can't come to the store.
Yeah, for sure. So, to kind of reiterate what you just said, this transformed from a music store, showroom, to a bigger retail store, to the addition of really meeting your customers everywhere, e-commerce and all different types of marketplaces.
Amazon, eBay, Jet, all of them.
Amazing. So then how do you take that business strategy from good to great? I mean, we talk about this a lot of times, like in sports, when you've won 5 championships, how do you continue to grow from here? So when you came on as CEO and when you began to lead, how do you take the company from good to even better?
Details. Devil's in the details. I always tell my manager, I'm never going to micromanage you. Like, we're gonna both be able to visualize where we want to be, and I'm going to trust that with the education and the programs we work with and the things we do with our vendors, that we can stay out of the way. And if a customer wants something, we're going to be there when they want it. Every one of these places has a different modus operandi, if you will. Like, Amazon customer is completely different than the Reverb customer. And the biggest difference between big, better, best and being greater for us was in the details. We started to be able to use tools that we have to literally go down to the single pack of strings, whether or not it should be sold on this marketplace, if you can ship it efficiently, if you can make money in that particular aspect or avenue. And we applied it to every single one of them. And it ended up taking us out of certain marketplaces and literally out of entire categories of products.
Wow. I mean, that's a great segue into my next question, which is what tools, what data, what technology were you leveraging to make those kind of decisions, to pull that level of analytics?
We have been on every one of them you can imagine to end up where we're at today. The last one that we blew through was Lightspeed. I mean, every day you'd hear an announcement on the intercom, everybody save your work, the Lightspeed server crashed, we're going to reset. And so the transition NetSuite was one that had swirled here for months. And there was a couple attempts at it. And there was a lot of fear about what it would really take to do that. But we knew that the next level for us was having good partners on the, I always call it the white collar side versus the blue collar side, shipping being the blue collar. And we dove in. And when we dove in, it was a game changer for us in terms of what we could see and what we could apply this, I guess I'll call it good decision making to. And for us, it's NetSuite and it's Shopify.
Yeah. But you and your leadership team also have to be asking the right questions and setting the right searches to pull the data that you need. So what are some of the reports you're constantly pulling or searches that you've set with CME, and what sort of business decisions have come from that?
In the Vegas part, it's the KPIs and the saved searches for us that have changed it all. And I've been proven wrong so many times on the perception of something. So if you look at like return rates from a certain marketplace, and I'll be like, oh, Amazon's the worst. And then you actually pull the data and I'm wrong, way wrong. Yeah. And you start to see where you think it's something, but just by visually looking at your day-to-day business. But when the data tells you otherwise, you're able to act on that. And the craziest part is within a month or two of that, you actually see it in profit margins. You see it in the way that we ship, our hard costs in shipping. And for us, it had a lot to do with landed costs in NetSuite and really being able to say down to the transaction, whether we made or lost money on that. Because again, what started as 31 years ago, a little guitar store, is international. So as fun as that sales floor is, and as much of a gear museum and fun to come and hang out at, behind that door is a lot of business.
Yeah,
a lot.
Of course. Of course. Now, I want to remind everybody who's tuning in, don't forget to leave your comments for Andrew, and we're going to get to them at the end of today's event. And also drop a hello. Tell us where you're tuning in from. I know a lot of you tune in from all different corners of the world, so let us know where you're at. Andrew, you mentioned earlier this kind of your exclusive products, the exclusivity that you provide your customers. You actually have a really successful program with Fender. Can you speak to that, and how did you go about that partnership, and why is it so crucial to your business?
It first started with Gibson when we became a dealer of their custom shop products, and every single phone call we got was, hey, this dealer has it, can I get a discount? Hey, these guys will give me this other discount. So I got on a plane, I went to Nashville and sat with the guys at the Gibson custom shop and just said, hey, I can't do this. Like, every phone call can't be about a discount. How do we build products that people can get from CME exclusively? The way it went to Fender and became so successful is because we then flew to the other coast and went and hung out with the guys at Fender and said, hey, can we paint a Telecaster pink? Can we paint a Stratocaster seafoam green? And they said, of course. And the first year was something like, I don't know, 100, 150 units of exclusive CME guitars. This year we'll top 10,000 CME exclusive instruments. That doesn't include merch or anything like that. But honestly, the testament has to do with the people involved. It has to do with using the information that's inside our systems to say, hey, your most popular colors are this. Your most popular features are here. Neck profiles, body types, everything, pickups for that matter. And we can take that information, go to Fender, and Fender with open arms just says, hey, bring us your ideas. We want to see you successful. And I mean, at this point, it's crazy. I get stopped by grown men all the time. Hey, pulling out their phone, you got to see my basement, and showing me pictures of 12 custom color instruments. And they'll be like, hey, can I get one of those pink Jazz Masters that I know you're coming out with? So it's crazy. But it's a testament to the people that we have here and then the systems that we're using to listen to the customers, what they want.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, CME prides itself on a one-of-a-kind customer experience. What is your strategy for customer acquisition and retention, and what is so very unique about it?
We have a marketing program that pretty much starts with the term welcome to the band. And it literally means welcome to the band. And so whether you play bass, guitar, drums, harmonica, it doesn't matter. We can use Shopify and NetSuite to tailor your marketing experience so that you don't get emails about guitars if you're here for the djembe at all. And along the way, we can make sure that your gear journey is exactly what yours should be. If you're a drummer and you regularly order drum heads, our system can actually say, hey, we're ready to go with your Evans drum heads when you are. And it's the combination that I term between personalizations and automation. So again, that personal experience has to do with sometimes you don't want to be bothered. That's okay. Here's the information that we know you want. If you're interested in Reverend guitars, Reverend has a new exclusive Billy Corgan release. Here it comes. If you're into something entirely different and you want a phone call, and we know that based on your customer type, David Aziz and Amini is going to reach out to you and congratulate you on your new custom shop purchase and walk you through things that we like that sound great with a custom shop guitar.
Amazing. How did you go about figuring out the right marketing strategy to convey this? I mean, that's a pretty difficult thing to do.
It was actually kind of easy. CME occupies a super unique space in our industry. You have Sweetwater and Guitar Center. I don't want to be Sweetwater. I don't want to be Guitar Center. And then you have, I don't know, thousands of mom and pop type guitar stores. And so the space that we have always occupied was this hybrid model. Hell, even with transitioning to NetSuite, it was crazy how many times people would be like, you can't do that right out the box. Like, because all these different marketplaces that we're on have these different languages. And so I just saw the path where it made sense to make this connection with the customer the priority. I didn't want to do mass marketing. I wanted to do targeted. I wanted to speak to you and what you were playing.
Yeah. I mean, I just have to say, I am not musically talented. You were saying welcome to the band to anybody, you know, who joins the CME following. I have no musical talent, although I will happily join the band, but all of my friends, including my boyfriend and his family, do. And I know that would be huge for them. I mean, when they're, you know, if they're a guitarist, they know what they want. They're not looking for all of the other stuff to come along with it. So I know that's, you know, super appreciated.
The store is designed the same way. When it started, when David took over, there was no bass shop, there was no drum shop, there was no repair shop, there was no vintage and used counter downstairs. It was a guitar store with a little acoustic room. In the middle of the pandemic, I doubled the acoustic room size. We have a basement. Get it? The basses are in the basement of the store.
I love it.
The dedicated drum shop was literally created because bands would show up and they'd be like, where are the drums? And initially they didn't have any. And so now we had a dedicated drum shop. So everyone in the band can do something here. Keys and synth players, pedal effects, everything.
Wow. You mentioned COVID actually, and with the showroom and a music venue as a big part of the overall CME experience, what changes have you implemented over the past year, and which of those decisions do you think will stick around as we get towards some level, some semblance of normalcy here in the near future?
I mean, there's two ways to look at that. Obviously, I had no choice but to make a lot of changes to support the safety of customers and employees alike. So the storefront experience was drastically changed overnight, but I do believe that we will get most of that back. I mean, there are going to be crowds again. There are going to be people without masks. I mean, if you come to our floor, it's super safe. Everybody's in a mask. There's hand sanitizing, the whole thing. But I think that returns. On the business side of things, you know, I dug in here with a couple of amazing people that we have. And from day one of the start of that pandemic, we all looked at each other like, hey, we still have orders, and a lot of orders at that. And we got in here and we figured it out. And we started to learn things about our business that changed overnight. People were pulling guitars out from underneath beds that hadn't touched them since their aunt died. Like, it was crazy. I mean, we sold more strings and picks and everything than we ever have in that month period. But we were able to make some incredible changes to the structural operation of how we buy and sell instruments worldwide that will forever be with us for the better. It was really crazy what happened, especially because vendors were out of the most popular things. Gone. You just couldn't get, I mean, that's a dreadnought shaped acoustic. Martin was out of guitars and they weren't building them. And everybody is used to saying, well, I want a Martin on the headstock. And so we had to get very, very specific about alternatives. And the way that we buy and sell instruments now is forever changed for the better. And it really does have to do with margins on what we sell and where we sell it. And honestly, no joke, it's a testament to NetSuite and how we've been able to learn how to use it.
That's great. We have a couple hellos coming in here that I just want to quickly address. First of all, Courtney says, I love a good pun. There you go, Andrew. See, I knew it was for something. She loves the idea of a basement. We have a couple hellos. Anna from Dubai, Lindsay tuning in from North Carolina, Brandon from Los Angeles, Chris from Los Angeles. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And don't forget to continue to ask your questions. We will get to them right at the end of this conversation. And then, of course, drop your hellos. We want to know where you're tuning in from. And thank you again for joining us. Now, Andrew, I have one more question coming from me, and it is, how will you continue to leverage technology for continued growth, and what can other entrepreneurs, founders, business leaders learn from that?
So I never, ever rest on my laurels. I'm always looking at what we're doing right up against what we're doing wrong. And one of the main things I do here is I don't really celebrate or stare at the wins. I look at what we aren't doing that's ending up in the right pile. Even in the way that we sell used inventory, you know, CME doesn't hold on to things and wait to go whack somebody for a big price. Like, I want it to be priced correctly in a way that inventory moves. Players play, collectors, these are tools for a lot of people, and they should be. And we look at the way things aren't selling to figure out what we did wrong. Did we pay too much for the instrument? Should we stop buying purple guitars? All of these things. And we try to move them into, we try to stop doing those things so that they automatically move into the right category, if you will. And then the other thing is my dad always said, don't do anything if you're going to do it half-assed. And so if we're going to move into a category, we're going to go all in, and we're going to make sure that what we're doing has the right goals in place. And that going into it, we know exactly what those goals are, whether those are financial or they're to find out what kind of things we should be building that we aren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're listening to our customers, always listening to the customers.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and you can tell just from, you know, perusing your website, you can tell you guys are customer first, customer oriented. That's great. That's it for my questions. I'm going to take some questions now that are coming in from the audience here. Here's one coming in right now. This is a very music forward company. How do you go about hiring?
So it's funny because over the past few years, we've had this, not debate, but it's been an active, involved discussion. Do you, when you're hiring for the sales floor, are you trying to get gear first? Or are you trying to get sales experience? And the way that we did it going before the pandemic, it was, we literally went all in on both. There was an entire run of, we got to have gear people. So it was kind of funny. We ended up hiring, I don't know, 6 people straight out of bands, and they've never sold an item in their lives. That's not the best thing to do on a sales floor, then going into a pandemic when the sales floor closes at all. But you had people who could take a phone call and talk about anything, but at no point would they be like, so do you want the guitar? Like it was a riot. But then the last thing that I'll ever do is hire someone based on, I'm a salesperson, because again, I won't even move into a category. I won't sell synthesizers unless I know that if you call the store and have a specific question about even a obscure item, if we can't answer it, I won't sell the product. So the way I go about hiring is kind of full 360. I mean, it takes a while, but we like people that are musically inclined. We like people that understand the product. You know, our head of accounting is one of the best singers I know. I mean, just that everybody here has their individual talents in music, but we have found the right places for them inside this company. And it's I mean, we're almost 100 people, so.
That's amazing. Sorry, little technical difficulties here. My internet's going a little wonky, but I want to get to one more question if you guys can hear me okay. All right, this last question coming in here. What's been your biggest lesson in business to date?
Biggest lesson in business to date. When you repeat the question like that, it's because you're trying to think about it, because you don't have an easy answer. I mean, honestly, I've said it to a lot of people, a lot bigger than me right now, and that is that I never walk into a room thinking I'm right. I'm always wanting to listen and get input from others, and especially, you know, my employees and customers alike. I mean, you know, I think my biggest strength is that I know when to get out of the way, when to put the right people in place to succeed. And that includes tools. I mean, it's automations and personalizations here all over the place. When it's a human that we know is the right answer for that, we do it. When it's a system, then I run towards it. But it's definitely, I'm always listening. If that's probably the best piece of advice I could give.
I love that.
Be open.
And that's great, Andrew. On that note, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here today. Look forward to all that's to come from CME in the future, and when we're allowed to travel again, I can hope to make my way over as well.
Please do. Please, would love to have everybody. Anybody that's out there, come on in. We're open.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and as always, a big thank you to all of you for tuning in. We wouldn't be doing this without you, and we'll be back next week with Ramon Ray. He is the founder of SmartHustle.com and NetSuite's first ever entrepreneur in residence. You're going to hear all about that and more. Tune in on Tuesday, March 23rd at 2 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you then. Bye.